Welcome everybody to our bi-monthly ROS1 Meetup. My name is Lisa Goldman. I'm a co-founder and vice president of our organization. Today we're just having kind of an informal discussion about side effects from the various drugs that ROS1ers are often prescribed. So I have a few people on here who have been on lorlatinib or Xalkori or entrectinib, some of the trial drugs, repotrectinib. I don't think we have anybody here who's been on the new Nuvalent drug. But we are just going to talk a little bit maybe about the side effects that we personally experienced and how we might have dealt with them or how our doctors might have suggested dealing with them. And this is kind of an open forum. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions at any point. I'd also just like to highlight to everybody, if you haven't discovered it already, but on our website, roswonders.org, or the roswonders.org, right, Amy? Sorry. There is a whole page, maybe Amy, if you can post a link to it in the chat, a whole page, an extensive discussion about side effects and things that people have done to try to address them and alleviate some of the uncomfortable things that we've all had to deal with. So that's been one of the most popular pages on our website. So it's a good one to know that's there and review if you ever have something new pop up that you're not quite sure what to do with. So I have been on chemo and Xalkori. Lisa Bonanno has been on also different types of chemo and Xalkori and has had some surgery as well. And have you had radiation, Lisa? And radiation. And Amy also has been on a number of drugs and had, I don't think surgery, but radiation. So I guess I'll just hand it off to you, Lisa. Maybe go ahead and start and talk a little bit about your experiences and maybe the things that have helped you deal with some of your side effects.
Amy, did you recently started chemo as well, didn't you?
I think
you talked right before you started.
In fact, I just came from that today.
And
Round 4.
how are you coping with it so far?
Okay.
That's what I always say. Okay. Yeah. Is anyone else
tired?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Tired and nausea.
Yeah, that seems to be the two most common side effects. I think that the fatigue for me is really the worst, I think. Is anybody else that's on the call on chemo, or have you been on it previously?
Well, I've been on it previously, but haven't for a while. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if, well, since me and Amy are the only ones that are actually on it at the moment, I'm not sure how much interest at some point. I mean, they are adding, at least in both of our cases, I think they are adding chemo to some of the targeted therapy drugs now to kind of extend them a little bit as a treatment option. So that's where I'm at this point. I've actually, this month, it's been 9 years that I've been on Xalkori. But it was after about 5 years that I started having progression, and it was really slow. So we just kind of watched it for about 9 months until it got big enough. We decided we had to do something. And at that point, since a biopsy didn't give us a great direction, we decided to add chemo to it. So I've been doing that now for 4 years that I've been doing chemo. First, every 3 weeks is the traditional protocol. After about 1.5 years, I asked if we could push it to every 4 weeks. To give me 1 extra week of making me feel a little bit better. And I actually ran it by Dr. Kamage as well. And they said for longer term patients that that's absolutely acceptable as long as, you keep having that response. So thankfully, I do it every 4 weeks now for about the last 2 years or 2.5 years. Fatigue, as I said, is the worst part for me. My worst days are days like 4 and 5 after. So it seems to take a couple days for the side effects of the chemo to kick in general. I always have treatments on Monday. I'm still on steroids on Tuesday. So Tuesday's great. You're still running. And then Wednesday, I start to crash, but Thursday, Friday are my worst days. And by worst days, I mean, if I know if some of you do have fatigue on the TKIs as well, but like, I don't shower for 4 days, guys. Like it gets pretty bad sometimes. Yeah, that's probably the worst, but I have found the more I push myself to actually do something, I don't care if it's just walking to my backyard and doing a lap around my backyard and then having to sit down, that really does help me feel better. I live alone a lot because my husband's gone for work. When he's home, I can push myself to do more because it's easy to just lay on my couch and do nothing. But I have found the more I move, the better I feel and the less tired I feel, even if I can't do very much. So I do yoga every day too. And a lot of times I just lay on my mat and stretch on those days, but it does help me feel better. And then as Amy had said, the nausea, and I don't know what drugs you're on or what you get with infusion, but
Everything now.
what's that?
I get everything now. They added another one today.
You get Aloxi. That's like
Yeah.
the long-term, that's the best thing ever. That didn't exist the first time I had chemo 10 years ago.
Mm.
So it's called Aloxi, Aloxi, and it's a longer acting nausea med. So you get it with your infusion or beforehand with all your pre-meds, and it lasts on average 3 to 5 days. And by then I'm done being nauseous. So I don't need anything. I do have at home, just in case, oral meds like Zofran or Compazine in case I need them, but I've never had to use them since I've been getting that drug, which is amazing to me. Because I remember that was the worst part the first time I had chemo, because you had to take those pills like every 4 to 6 hours or something. And if you take a nap and you wake up and you missed your dose, then you just wake up throwing up, and it's kind of too late to try and play catch up at that point. So that's been an amazing drug for me. And the other biggest, the biggest tip I think I have is meal prepping, especially me being by myself a lot. I cook like on Monday or Tuesday, the day I have chemo, enough for like the next 4 or 5 days. It's usually the same meal. I'll make a big pot of veggie soup. I do crave carbs like crazy after chemo. I don't know if it's from the steroids or what. I don't generally eat like rice or pasta or anything like that. But sometimes I'll just have a baked potato for dinner. And if that's what I'm craving, I just go for it. And those days I don't care about trying to be healthy. I just eat what I can eat and whatever makes me feel better. But I do like kind of cold, fresh things as well. So I always have like grapes or berries or something on hand, or something you can have for like little small snacks. I also chop up cucumbers a lot. That's like refreshing to me for some reason. Like even water doesn't taste good. I don't know if you get that metallic taste at all, but like nothing tastes great to me. So I've had to find little things. I found some infusers I could put in my water to help, give me something with flavor, but not be too sweet. So those are kind of the biggest things I've had to deal with. There's a whole nother list of side effects, but those are the most common, I think, that I have to deal with.
They actually added, I do have the Aloxi, and I pulled up my after visit summary for today. They added Cinvanti, Cinvanti, as another anti-nausea med today. And it's one that, as they pushed it in, it tasted like a mediocre pina colada in my mouth.
Nice.
So they're pushing it through the IV, you're tasting it in your mouth.
Yeah.
So I have that, and then after the 3 days of the Aloxi end, I take Zofran. And then I also have olanzapine, which is an antipsychotic drug, and I take that at night. It helps me sleep and helps with the nausea. And I have prochlorperazine, which I take during the day. So I am stacking all kinds of things just to keep that under control. And like you, I don't eat carbs normally, but after chemo, I have decided to let go of that. And pho is my big make me feel better meal. So we'll get pho and then I'll feel better. I am experiencing hair thinning, like a lot of hair coming out with chemo. No patches and bare spots. Just I had a lot more hair. It may look like I have a lot, but I had a lot more before this started.
I've heard some people on you're on Carbo-Olympta as well,
Mhm.
right? Yeah. I've heard some people do get some thinning, but yeah, we're not supposed to lose our hair on these drugs, but some people have lost some. Maybe after the carbo, once you're done with carbo, that'll.
I asked them today, they weren't 100% sure on that. And yeah, I know you said that like generally you do 4 with the carbo and the pemetrexid, but we are going to look next time to see what my scans show. And if I am continuing to show a decrease in the cancer, that we may continue to add another round with the carbo still in it. I think you did 6.
Yeah, I ended up doing 6 too. There's not really comparative wise, they say most people don't have much improvement after 4. They used to say 6 rounds. And I think, did you have 6 rounds too in the beginning, Lisa, when you had chemo before? That when 10 years ago, they used to push 6 rounds, I think, all the time. But now they've discovered it might not be much better than 4.
Yeah, I just had 4 but I had cisplatin, not carboplatin, which is even more toxic. And then they switched me to just Avastin and Alimta. But before we continue with the discussion on the chemo or other drugs, I just wanted to survey the folks that are on the call. If you could tell us what drugs you're on, and maybe we can focus the discussion more on what's relevant to you. Because we have people here that have might be on entrectinib or Xalkori. Just either unmute yourself and let us know, or put it in the chat, and we'll try to address your concerns.
I will say, but while we're waiting for that, I'm only on chemo. It's not added to a TKI for me. The last 2 TKIs I was on, I developed pneumonitis, and because it went away, we got it under control, and then I went on another TKI and it came back. My oncologist is worried that I'm having a drug class reaction, that any TKI may now produce pneumonitis for me. So we are just doing chemo at this point.
I don't know if you know Melissa Krause, but her liver doesn't like, she always says the tinibs. Her body doesn't like any of the tinibs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I did end up doing 6 rounds, hoping I would have more of a shrinkage than I did after the 4, because I didn't have a lot, actually. They didn't shrink that much, but they were shrinking. And as long as I was able to handle, the toxicity of doing that with Xalkori, I agreed to do 2 more, but it didn't make a difference in my case. But I always think it's worth trying if you can.
That's kind of where I'm at too.
Well, we've only had one person tell us Cindy is on Xalkori, and she's kind of an expert at 4+ years herself. But Dinant, what drug are you on, or Corinne?
I started 11 weeks ago. I started with the repotrectinib trial. And in the beginning, I had a lot of pain in my hands, in my feet. And
me too. I did too.
Okay. And this kind of went away after some weeks. But what I keep on having is fatigue, nausea or dizziness. I don't know how you call it exactly. Well, sometimes I have diarrhea, but not a lot. I think 3 times so far. And well, the disgoose, the taste, every food, almost all food tastes different than before. And I was wondering, is that also going away in some weeks, or will it stay?
Well, I can talk about repotrectinib if we want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, when you're doing a trial, you have to keep a dosing diary. You have to record when you take your medication. And I'm a little bit techie, so I set up an app on my phone so I could tap a button on my phone. I don't like writing them down by hand. I was afraid I'd lose that piece of paper. So I'd tap a button on my phone and it would write to my Google Sheet. And then on the Google Sheet, I would go and I'd write all my side effects. So I have it open here and I know exactly when things started. And it's when you're ramping up going on to it. The first things that happened were the soreness in my hands and feet. They gave me topical ibuprofen gel for that. But my husband laughed at me. He said I was hobbling around like an old lady because the soles of my feet hurt so badly just to put pressure on them. That went away in about a week. Every time we stepped up the dose, what I had felt went away and something new came on. So I had the pain, then the dizziness started. And I noticed it was when I would go from a low position to a high position.
Yeah.
So when I was gardening and working in the yard, I'd have to stop a minute and wait to catch my balance and move on. And then my lips and tongue went numb.
Oh,
Have a taste change, but I had numbness, and I was really worried for a bit because it started to move back farther in my throat, and I was worried I wouldn't be able to swallow, but that went away after a week too. And then no taste change. I actually had constipation, and then the big one for me on that was weight gain. I gained almost 50 pounds in the year and a half I was on it.
oh my God.
And I couldn't take it off. What I ended up doing was going on the keto diet, and that actually took it off. The hardest thing for me after I got past the onboarding and I learned to live with the constipation I managed with Senna, the dizziness, I just kind of learned to anticipate that. After that, it was great. For me, wonderful. I didn't really notice that I was taking anything at that point until I had to go off of it. And then it really got me with withdrawal. So I was in bed, unable to move because of pain, and the light hurt my eyes, totally sick to my stomach. And it was probably a good 4 days like that before they called in steroids for me the first time. And that finally got me up and moving around again. It was worse than anything else I've gone through with this cancer. So
Okay.
try not to go off of it until you have to. I had to do that.
Okay. Thank you.
And did you go cold turkey or did they titrate it down?
No, so we'd found a study, my oncologist, that had said that it might be better if you wean yourself off of a TKI if you're experiencing that withdrawal. And we asked the study coordinators if we could do that when they said I had to go off because of the pneumonitis. And they said no.
Okay.
So cold turkey. The second time we did start the steroids right away, but it did not make a huge difference. I still ended up in bed for a couple of days.
Yuck.
But if it were not for that pneumonitis, I would still be on it. It did an amazing job at controlling my cancer. It got my brain meds, it got my tumors in my lungs. Nothing was progressing. I just developed the pneumonitis.
Okay.
So just to be clear, because she was in the trial, they kicked her out of the trial. But if you're not getting the drug through the trial and you can tolerate the pneumonitis, you could stay on the drug. It's just, it was a trial requirement.
Yep. The first time they gave me 6 weeks to get it under control. And I think I was 2 days before the 6-week mark that we got me back on it. And it was kind of this, okay, we got to get there, hurry up. And started just in time. And then I had another probably 5-6 months on it before it came back. And their protocol says if it reoccurs, then you're out of the trial.
So what kind of side effects are you experiencing? Maybe we could help you, or maybe Amy already addressed them.
Well, at the moment, it is the dizziness, the fatigue, and the disgust or taste change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the taste change. The dizziness, I would go slow when I got from down low to up high, and I'd hang on to things if I needed to. I did notice, like they make you go through those little neurological checks during your visits, and they would have me close my eyes and try to stand still, and I would sway. My eyes are shut. So it just it really affects your equilibrium, and I don't have any advice for making that one better.
Okay.
For taste changes, that can occur with other drugs also. So I had some of that with Xalkori the first several months, and then it seemed either I got used to it or it went away because I don't notice it anymore. So that may ease up for you. The other thing I would say is you might start to notice it's just certain types of foods, like maybe it's acidic foods that cause problems, citrus or strawberries or something like that, but not so much other types of foods. There are some cookbooks by a woman named Rebecca Katz, Katz. I have a few of them on my shelf. It's like Cancer Fighting Kitchen and something else like that. Anyway, she has written these cookbooks that are specifically for people who have taste changes. Primarily, she was looking at people or writing recipes for people in chemotherapy, but I think the same things might apply here. So there might be recipes there that are more palatable for people who are struggling with taste change issues.
Okay. Rebecca Katz.
Yeah, Katz.
Okay, yeah, got it. Yeah.
And fatigue is just, gosh, that's one that we all seems to be with every treatment. And I agree with Lisa Bonanno, who said, you know, exercise has helped me also, even if it's just really mild, you know, yoga, stretching, or going on a walk, but doing anything seems to help. It's sort of counterintuitive, but doing even a little something helps with the fatigue better than just trying to rest all the time. A few other supplements, and I'm not a doctor, I'm not necessarily recommending this, but I've noticed my energy flags, well, my iron seems to tank on my drug, so I have to keep an eye on my iron levels. I also keep an eye on my vitamin D levels, and my vitamin B also. So those are just things I track. You know, my doctor takes usually about every 4 to 6 weeks. I go in for labs, and we just keep an eye on my D, my iron, and my B12 levels. And either I take with oral supplements, or sometimes the doctors can give infusions of different things. Like sometimes I go for iron infusions.
Okay.
I also added acupuncture, and that helps a lot with my fatigue. So it's I usually try to schedule it day 3 or 4 after an infusion, and I go in and have acupuncture, and then I can be back in the garden working and have my energy back next couple of days.
Okay.
Yeah, that helped me too. And it also helped me with my nausea.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Just gonna
And she sticks one right here in the middle of my forehead to calm my mind.
That's the favorite one. That's my acupuncturist used to call that the mommy spot.
Supposed to make me stop worrying about everything all the time while I'm sitting there.
So Nancy has asked, she's progressing on entrectinib and worried about what happens next, but she has had troubles walking and feels very debilitated on entrectinib, and wonders if the neuropathy will ever go away. And she's struggling with the weight gain also. So more questions for you on that, Amy.
Well, I've not been on entrectinib.
Oh, sorry.
So I don't know that one. And I don't have any experience with neuropathy, and I don't know if it's something that it will go away when you switch drugs.
I think a lot of times it does. I had it with my first chemo 10 years ago. I had Taxol along with carboplatin. And after, I think about the 3rd infusion, I really started having, at first, just kind of that tingly, sleepy feeling in my feet. But then kind of did get somewhat painful. I mean, it was tolerable, but I would say maybe, I don't know, a month or 2 after I was off chemo, they started feeling better, and I have no issues now. So be hopeful, Nancy, that, you know, it may go away when you stop taking the drug, but I don't know that it does for everyone. It might depend on the severity of it, you know, what extent, I'm not sure. I would definitely ask your doctor what their thoughts are, but I know mine went away, and I know a few other people that didn't have it too severely either, that had theirs go away when they stopped.
Hi, Lisa.
Yeah.
Hi, Nancy.
How long did you have neuropathy for?
Probably just a few months. I would say from treatment 3 through 6 was about 3 months. So maybe 4 to 5 months, not a real long time.
It's very odd because in the drop from 400 mgs to 200 mgs, which we've done just because I can't cope with the side effects, but we don't have an alternative yet. A lot of things have rectified themselves somewhat, like my sense of taste is a lot better than it was. But the neuropathy is very difficult to, it's difficult to ascertain what's going on because you're sort of going through all those pins and needles sections and you sort of go, okay, is this better or is this worse? I can't really tell. It's a very odd thing.
Yeah, and it does. I know mentally it's kind of tough to deal with when you can't move around like you'd like to physically.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the weight gain doesn't help that at all. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
We have a comment from Huang. Did I pronounce your name correctly? Who said he was on entrectinib and he found that gabapentin it was a drug that really helped with his feet nerve pain. So have you tried that, Nancy?
Yeah, I've tried gabapentin and what's the one that sounds like that but isn't that? Anyways, neither of them, both of them gave me such bad side effects I had to stop.
The one thing I will recommend I really recommend it for any advanced cancer patient is to go consult with the palliative care department if you have one. Get a referral from your oncologist. Oncologists, they're familiar with side effects of the drugs, but their training is in the cancer treatment drugs, not in managing side effects. Mm-hmm. And palliative doctors are focused solely on quality of life. So they're not exclusive to hospice. You do not have to be going into hospice to go see a palliative care doctor. There are people, just with diabetes or other kind of chronic conditions that go to palliative care doctors to help manage, because then you get all these, drug interactions. You have to balance what you're taking for side effects, what else you may be doing in your life that could cause interactions. Who knows? And this just isn't the specialty of oncologists. And sometimes they just don't either have the expertise or the time. And I found palliative care doctors just to be a really great resource, very empathetic. And a lot of people just either don't know to use them or are afraid of them because they associate it with hospice exclusively. And it's a shame. So if you haven't consulted with a palliative care doc, Nancy, that might be something that could help you.
That's great advice. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have to run. Bye.
All right, bye. Thanks for dropping in.
Thanks.
I'm sorry we don't have Renee here to talk about entrectinib. She was going to be our resident expert on that, but we don't have anybody else.
I can speak a little bit to lorlatinib too, just in case that comes up as a future option for anyone. And for me, lorlatinib is the case study in everybody reacts differently to these drugs. Because after being in our Facebook group for several years and watching people comment about their experience on lorlatinib, I was super worried about going on it. I didn't want the joint pain. It's supposed to have dizziness too, and I was kind of tired of that with the repotrectinib. And then the biggest thing I was worried about was the brain fog or some of the cognitive stuff that can happen, that I just didn't want that. My job is mostly problem solving, and I need to be able to think. But when I went on it, I felt nothing. I had no side effects. There was no dizziness. There was no brain fog. There was no pain anywhere. If it had worked, it would have been wonderful. It just didn't work for me. So for me, that is definitely the realization that just because somebody else had this side effect, it does not mean that you will. It might actually be a really good option. So, and when you're having trouble on entrectinib, maybe you switch over to that one. But a biopsy for me, when I had progression on crizotinib, my progression was in a lymph node right next to my aorta. And so it was really tough to get there. They couldn't biopsy it. So we just tried the trial for repotrectinib. And then when I had to go off that because we didn't have a biopsy. We didn't know if there was what the resistance mechanism was. Then we tried the lorlatinib, and pneumonitis came back and my cancer was growing at the same time. So that's where I got to where I'm at. We did do a liquid biopsy when the progression started on lorlatinib, and that did show G2032R as my resistance mechanism, which is why lorlatinib didn't work very well for me. Now we know.
Pamela Klein, she's not on the call, but she's a good friend of mine, lives here in Florida. She has been on entrectinib for many years. She started in like the phase 1 of the trial. I want to say like 5 years or something. She's been on it a really long time. If anyone wanted to reach out to her, I know she would be happy to speak with anyone as well.
And then I know we talked about side effects for radiation. I didn't have a whole lot for that either, but I also had a really tiny brain met, and we just did CyberKnife on it. So I went in one day, one session that was about 25 minutes. And the only side effect I had from that was fatigue. I was back to work the next day.
Kind of amazing.
Amazing how far they've come too with zapping brain mets and stuff. You know, they used to only do 1 or 2 at a time. Now they can do so much more at one time. And I think it's becoming more and more rare that they do whole brain radiation, thankfully, that they found other ways to treat and deal with it besides the TKAs, most of them doing such a great job in the brain too. I had radiation on my spine and my pelvis when I was first diagnosed, and I just had fatigue from it as well. But I was also just recovering from a spine surgery, so I don't know how much of it was related or not. But in the bone, you have a lot less treatments than you do in soft tissue. Like if you have your lung radiated, I think it's quite a few. I want to say it's like usually around 30 treatments, but in the bone, it's only like I had 10. It's a very short amount, but that may even be less now. That was a long time ago.
We don't have anybody here on the new Valent trial, the new drug NVL, and it's a number that I forget. But what I've heard from the few ROS1ers in our group is minimal side effects, which was not an accident. The drug is designed to reduce side effects. It's avoiding certain targets that cause some of the problems that people were experiencing. So it's great to hear that perhaps they have succeeded in creating a drug with less side effects.
How great would that be if all of them are able to follow that coming forward?
Yeah,
It's exciting.
super exciting. I'm struggling with weight gain again. I thought I had gotten it more under control. In the last few months, it seemed to have come back without a change in my behavior, really. So I don't know. I feel like these drugs, I've been on Xalkori for so long, and maybe the cumulative effects, it seems like it might be affecting my hormones or something. I don't know. I mean, I'm not an MD, but boy, is it hard to avoid the weight gain. I don't know what to do anymore.
Well, and my oncologist says, yes, all of those TKIs cause weight gain, but he's also not real concerned about it.
Right.
Like he's perfectly fine if I'm gaining weight as long as my cancer's not growing.
Right.
I'm like, I am not fine with this.
I know.
I need some
I think
solutions.
most of them seem to be, don't they? They're like, we'd rather you be a little fluffier than be too skinny, like to have a cushion, I guess, for when we do lose weight. But I'm totally not okay with that either.
Well, at my
It
diagnosis,
affects with you.
I lost weight so fast when I was sick before we figured out what it was that
Yeah.
I could see why they would like us to be a little bit fluffier.
Yeah, me too. I lost 20 pounds like really quickly, and muscle mass too. I think that was the hardest part. I became very weak, and like I remember even walking up my stairs, my legs were like, I don't know if we're gonna make it, which is hard, Yeah, it's like it's a dramatic any direction, I guess, when you have such a dramatic change in weight, is hard mentally to wrap your head around.
Yeah.
And it becomes uncomfortable when you gain weight. It's not just the fact of, I don't want to gain weight, but, you know, being uncomfortable or your pants being too tight or whatever it is, you know, you're just like, ugh.
Yeah. Yucky. Teresa, you haven't said anything, and you're welcome not to. Lurkers are fine, but if you had any questions or wanted to let us know if we've covered the drug you're on, let us know. And Cindy, I don't know if you had any questions. Just making sure.
Sorry, I'm outside digging in the garden as I'm listening, and so I don't really have any questions. I mean, I've been dealing with my side effects with Xalkori for quite some time. In fact, I've thrown up once today and probably will do it again later. But and that doesn't happen all the time. But I guess I'm just like adjusted to that kind of thing. The fatigue I seem to be getting more tired, and I don't know if that's a normal thing as the years progress, that you just get more tired, or if that, you know, maybe that's just completely normal. That'd be my only question, I guess.
Yeah, as I said, I have been feeling more tired and fatigued myself lately on Xalkori now for over 7 years. And I think it has to do with I'm going to talk to my doctor about my B12 and my vitamin D and my iron and stuff like that. But some of it might just be unavoidable. I don't know. But I'm glad you're working in your garden. Enjoy that.
Yeah, it's a time crunch. My dad's out in the woods splitting wood, and I've got a baseball game to go to in a little bit. So
Nice.
Good problems to have. I've got 10 grandkids, you know, so there's just things they gotta go do.
Yep.
Sounds awesome.
Sometimes having those things you have to go do helps with the fatigue too. It's like if I know somebody else is waiting on me and depending on me to get something done or get them someplace, I'll rally and do it and just push through.
So true.
Grandkids are a great motivation. I hope I get to have them one day. Not that either one of my children should have kids yet.
Careful what you wish for there.
Yes.
Cindy, you're saying that you already threw up once today. My favorite story with Xalkori is I had started it and I was taking Zofran every day, and I decided I wanted to wean myself off of that. So I stopped taking it, and my colleague was driving me to a work conference. It's about half an hour, 40 minutes away. And we got to one exit before the convention center, and I threw up all over his car, all over myself, everywhere. He very nicely, the next exit, got right back on the freeway, drove me right back home, cleaned his car out. And from then on, I decided, you know what, I'm just going to be okay taking the Zofran every day so I don't have to deal with this.
And you know, I'm not, usually I don't throw up. Usually, it's usually the other end. So, so you know, everything has its plus side.
I had a lot of Imodium when I was on Xalkori. You know, in Canada, they sell Imodium in a dissolvable tab. And so every time we took a trip to Canada, I would stock up on those dissolvable tabs because I could put them in my purse, pop it out, put it in my mouth whenever I didn't feel well, and I didn't have to worry about water, and it acted really fast.
Oh, well, that's
great.
Yeah.
I've gotten adapt to swallowing them without water. They're very tiny pills, but they do taste disgusting, and they dissolve very quickly. So literally as soon as it's in your mouth, you got to be ready, because I've had one sit on my tongue too long before, and they taste really, really bad. But I didn't have any water, and I really needed to take it.
Careful, don't try that with your TKIs though. That can really burn. Make
Yeah.
sure you swallow it all the way down. So one of the side effects for Xalkori, and I don't know if this is true for the others, but if it either gets stuck in your throat, or I've had the thing where it goes down into my stomach, but it clearly the capsule has dissolved, and somehow, I don't know if I burped or whatever, somehow the powder comes back up into my esophagus a little bit, even just a little bit, and that can actually cause chemical burns in your esophagus. It hurts like heck. So always take your pills with water if you can. Lots of water.
Don't lay
A couple
down.
of times I burped after taking one of those pills, and I actually saw smoke come out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That
it makes you
can't
really
be
wonder
good.
what you're taking when you become a fire-breathing dragon.
Another great side effect. Yeah, or
Uh,
laying down after. Make sure you don't lay down for at least 30 minutes, but I know a lot of people say like an hour, just in case after. I only did that one time too, where you just have like, it hurt to swallow water for like 2 days afterwards. That was the worst. I never did it again. It was awful.
Teresa, I see that you're having trouble gaining weight, which I remember Tori had that issue. So some people on Xalkori actually lose weight either from the diarrhea and nausea, or I don't know, their body's reaction. My body always chooses constipation and weight gain, it seems, but I know that actually my first like 6 months or so on Xalkori were rough, and I had a lot of nausea, and I did lose weight initially. And my doctor put me on a drug called Remeron, which is an I don't know if it's anti-anxiety or anti-depression drug, but it has the side effect of weight gain, stimulating appetite and helping you gain weight. So again, that might be something you could talk to your doctor or a palliative care doc about, helping you figure out how to manage your side effects there, especially with the weight gain and the food tastes, if they're different. Again, maybe that Rebecca Katz book can help, or the palliative doctors might have some ideas also. Are you actually, yeah, oh, Remeron is an antidepressant drug, right? Yeah. So I was struggling that first 6 months on Xalkori. I was still pretty new to my diagnosis. And I was really struggling with the nausea on Xalkori. So I'm sure I was not in a great headspace either. So it kind of had a twofer effect of helping me with my mood and also my weight management. So. Any other questions?
Does anybody else on here maybe have any tips that they found that work really good for them for any side effects that we haven't gone over yet? Or that we have gone over?
I just agree with the taking a lot of water when I take my pill, and definitely not going right to bed.
Yeah. You kind of only have to learn that lesson once.
Yeah,
For sure.
hopefully.
It hurts. I almost took myself to the ER for that one. And it can also happen if you've forgotten. I remember, I'm spacing his name, but there was a ROS1er in our group who forgot he'd already taken his pill in the morning and then took the second one. And so if you double the dose, you can get that burning also. So I have combated that by getting a pill case. So every week I just sort out my pills, and then I can see if I've taken my morning one or not. So I don't have to rely on my my not so great memory. So
That's what I do too. And sometimes I go to take my afternoon vitamins and find my Xalkori still sitting in there, and it's like, oh.
yeah.
How close do you
That's
think you
true.
can take your doses together? I do have that question.
Lisa, you do 8 hours? Is that what it was?
I generally do mine 8 hours apart. I know some people have been very worried about like the twice a day thing, that they have to be exactly 12 hours apart. That would be impossible for me because I do have to take them with a pretty decent meal. So I take them with breakfast and dinner, generally about 8 hours apart. But I believe I've read, or Janet has said, that a minimum of 6 hours apart. But ideally probably closer to 12. But I think more so it's for side effect purposes. If you take them way too close and you're already having like chronic diarrhea, you probably get pretty ugly.
Pfizer's page on Xalkori says if it's more than 6 hours to your next dose, you can take the missed one, and if it's within 6 hours, just take the next one. Don't take the second pill.
Thank you.
One thing that I did get on when I was on Xalkori, my wrist started to hurt, and I was worried that was neuropathy, but they had me wear carpal tunnel braces at night in bed, and that totally dealt with it. And apparently it's something they've seen in the clinic several times with people on different TKIs, that it just inflames those nerves in your wrists. So it really mimics carpal tunnel. And if you wear the brace at night, you wake up and it's much better.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, that's good to know.
And I know a lot of people deal with edema. I have struggled with that for years. It didn't kick in. It didn't have it on chemo at all, but on Xalkori, it's just gotten worse and worse. So I wear compression socks every day. If I don't, it's very quick to, my ankles just swell up immediately. And I try to do, I have a machine called a Flexi Touch. It's one of these compression devices. It's just like I put my legs in these sleeves, and there's little air bubbles in those sleeves that inflate and put sort of gentle pressure on my legs, and it goes up and it tries to encourage the lymph fluid to get processed through my body. So that helps also. And then drink a lot of water and try to watch my salt intake. I'm terrible about watching that, though, I have to confess. But I know that's a side effect that a lot of us struggle with, especially as we head into summer. It always gets worse when it's warm.
Wearing compression socks when you're on vacation in Mexico is not fun.
No. I know. I look like such a dork, like walking around in shorts or a bathing suit and compression socks. But I mean, there's no alternative. And
I always take them on the airplane too.
Yeah, for sure, on the airplane.
I don't struggle with it on a daily basis. Mine just seems to be kind of random, but always when I fly. So I always wear them, and I usually wear shorts or like a comfortable sundress on a plane. So yeah, they look pretty hot.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Bright colors and wild and don't match anything I have on, but I'm like, who cares? I don't know these people.
Well, if there aren't any other questions, we don't have to keep you too long. I want to thank you guys for joining us. If you have questions that you think of after the fact, feel free to post them on our private Facebook group, or you can reach out and email any of the three of us, me, Lisa, or Amy. If you need our email, so mine is lisag@theroswonders.org, and Amy's is similar, Amy P@theroswonders.org. Lisa, do you have a Ross Wonders?
I don't.
Okay.
It's just Lisa Bonanno at Gmail, or you could always message me on Facebook as well if that's easier for you.
Yeah.
Can you repeat the email?
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat actually.
Okay, thank you.
Add mine just in case. Since both of my names are spelled funny.
All right. Yeah.
And I think we'll post the recording in the group in the next few days and get it up on our YouTube channel if anybody wants to rewatch it. And otherwise, we'll have our next meetup in a couple weeks, and we'll be posting about that, the link and the time and the topic soon. So, all right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. And special thanks to Amy and Lisa for helping lead this with me.
Thank you.
Guys, good to see you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.